To meet the rough weather, they sort of were of the mindset that sail-powered ships kind of had to give way to the weather. But, you know, by God, this was steam-powered. This didn't have to give way to the elements. They were just going to plow through this storm. And that turned out, in effect, to be their undoing, because the ship sprung a leak in the forward part of the ship, and they could not keep the water level out of the ship, even with people bailing by hand. And eventually the water level came up over the coal, so that they couldn't keep the steam engines going in the ship anymore, and finally they just were adrift at the mercy of the weather. When they saw a ship of the Marine about noon, the Marine took off all the women and children, but the seas got too rough for them to continue doing that. They had to give that up about 6:30 or so at night. And about 8:30, the ship finally went down, fired its rockets. They could see the rockets from the brig Marine, which was standing close by. And Captain Herndon went down at the wheel of the ship in his full military uniform, and that's the last that was ever seen of him.
At the time, it was the greatest sea disaster in American history, with 425 people losing their lives. In addition to the deaths, an estimated $400 million of gold bars and coins from the San Francisco Mint sank to the ocean bottom over 1.5 miles below. And for nearly 130 years, that's where the gold stayed. Because of the storm's strength and the depth of the ocean, the exact location where the Central America went down remained a mystery.
The operational problem is how to find this wreck on the ocean bottom. The mathematical problem is to take the information that's available to us and to properly represent what that information tells us about the location of the wreck. And properly representing that means taking account of all the uncertainties in the information.
Dr. Stone used a strategy based on an operations research method called search theory. But even with search theory, finding the Central America wasn't going to be a snap. There was, after all, over 1,000 square miles of ocean to search, an area about the size of the state of Rhode Island. Well, using the information they had, much of which was conflicting, Dr. Stone and his team spent months creating what's called a probability map of the ocean floor.
Once you've got that probability map, the second part is to lay out a plan, a search plan that gives you a high probability of success.
After spending more than 3 summers searching the ocean floor, the search team found the ship.
Here we go. Oh, you know what that is. Yeah, I'm winching up right now. We've got...
And with it, the gold. Today, search theory is still very much in use, whether it's finding wrecked ships or planes downed in the ocean, or even its original purpose, tracking submarines. But one thing's for sure. Without the systematic planning that went into the probability maps, the search for the Central America might still be going on.
Because of its origins, you'd expect ORMS to have many military uses. Well, after all, the logistical challenge of running a complex and widespread branch of the service is not all that different from running a large corporation or a business.
Still, the stakes are different when the mission has to do with national defense or protecting our country's interests around the world. Now, in the military, as in business, ORMS has to do with estimating the effects of a change in existing conditions. Not just any kind of change, but change that can actually threaten the delicate political balance in the world. Imagine bringing a nation's forces together in times of emergency. Think about the planning involved, estimating troop size, the weaponry and equipment necessary, the most effective tactics, and you'll see the role of ORMS is quite critical. The point is, military ORMS specialists work to build models which reflect a host of real military and strategic concerns. And how much more real can you get than the events of the recent war in the former Yugoslavia? After years of conflict, the United States brought the warring parties together to find a peaceful end to the fighting. In this instance, military experts used a flight mission rehearsal system developed to help pilots prepare selective bombing missions to help achieve a ceasefire. These systems represent a pretty demanding mathematical problem, combining satellite imagery and a digital terrain database, and involve ORMS in helping manipulate that imagery and data efficiently. Well, after using these mission rehearsal systems to train pilots, the mediators decided to use the technology in a new way, to persuade the presidents of the three republics that continued fighting would prove fruitless.
What we were able to do was take satellite imagery, match it to a point in the world with a digital terrain base, so you could get basically the contours or the three-dimensional imagery, the virtual reality. When the presidents of the three republics saw the high-resolution satellite photography matched over the mountains, where we could fly down at three-dimensional and pick up a house, a road, a car, that they saw the power that we had available to us in the terms of exploiting this mathematical technology, and they realized that our technology was so advanced that they couldn't hide at night because we could find them. And I think it was a very, very pronounced lesson to the three presidents.
And our joint work has made it possible for the people of Bosnia to spend New Year's Day in peace for the first time in 4 years.
What we were able to do was to show graphically to the three presidents where the borders were and how to divide up the borders and the road from Gorazna to Sarajevo, the Muslim safe haven, to ensure there be a safe corridor. And it was after that, that graphics demonstration to the president of Serbia that he agreed to the peace conference.
Well, as we see here, ORMS has some very important military applications today. Sophisticated applications that demonstrate not only how to win a war, but how to keep the peace. Business and politics are two ways management science applies to our world. But there are also more personal ways it helps people in worlds far removed from the business districts and profit centers of our cities. ORMS has also served in areas of the health field, like here, where its benefits may ultimately reach half the population of the nation. Despite increased public awareness and the efforts of medical researchers, breast cancer remains one of the most prevalent and most deadly forms of the disease.
No, that's okay.
This year alone, approximately 180,000 new cases of breast cancer will be diagnosed in the U.S., and 44,000 women will die from the disease. Most doctors and scientists agree that early detection is one way a woman can improve her chances of survival. Likewise, for women who've undergone surgery to remove the cancer, survival depends on accurately predicting its possible recurrence.
And that's where OR comes in. Research at the University of Wisconsin using OR linear programming methods has led to computer-based software which can improve the accuracy of breast cancer diagnosis and prognosis. Dr. William Wahlberg, a surgeon at University's Medical Center, teamed up with Professor Olvi Mangasarian of the university's Computer Sciences Department. Together with Professor Nick Street, they developed a program called Excite. The idea behind Excite is to provide a reliable, low-cost way of analyzing cell specimens to determine whether they are benign or malignant. Currently in the experimental stage, this process promises to be an alternative to more expensive and invasive surgery.
This is a wonderful diagnostic tool. The majority of breast cancer in this country is diagnosed by cutting the tumor out and by doing sections that you look at under the microscope. So one of our very high priority items is to adapt Excite to read such sections.
The process begins with a diagnostic procedure known as fine needle aspiration. This is where a physician draws a tissue sample from a breast lump or mass that has been detected by either self-examination or mammography. This tissue sample is then transferred to a slide and converted to a digital image. Using the specially designed graphical program, doctors inspect the cellular image to determine whether it's malignant or benign.
This analysis focuses on 10 key features in the cell nucleus and takes all of 2 to 5 minutes. In some cases, where visual diagnosis is borderline, The program also estimates the probability a specimen is malignant. Professor Street developed the Excite software based on OR linear programming models. To start with, he taught the computer to visually diagnose based on slide records that Dr. Wohlberg had. Then he had to develop it so the software could analyze new specimens correctly.
When we first developed this classifier, we predicted, using a technique called cross-validation, we predicted that it would be right, the diagnostic system would be correct 97.5% of the time. The current actual accuracy on patients that come in the door is 97.9.
To date, Excite's results prove it's as reliable as any procedure short of surgery. And yet, it's far less drastic than the surgical biopsy method. In addition to its accuracy, what's most important may be its speed.
This is an outpatient procedure. The results are available in 15 or 20 minutes. So it's really very, very expedient. Additionally, in order to do the biopsy, the patient doesn't have to go to the operating room.
Need to give it some time.
For women who've had the cancer removed, there is always the concern that cancer may recur. At present, one of the major ways to assess whether a patient is at increased risk for recurrence is to examine lymph nodes at the time of surgery. Lymph node sampling can reveal whether the cancer has already spread and the need for more aggressive treatment to prevent its recurrence.
The Excite program is also able to work here by estimating the time of recurrence for those women diagnosed with the disease in order to help them decide on a course of treatment. Furthermore, the program can estimate the patient's probability of disease-free survival.
That's a big tangible benefit for people's peace of mind. We're giving them more information. It's one of the great things about Dr. Wohlberg. He appreciates that, and he's interested in getting more information to his patients so that when they're deciding, yes, I want this biopsied, yes, I want to go ahead and have the surgery, they know as much as they can possibly know about it in order to make that decision.
While the cure for breast cancer still eludes us, OR-based research is helping make great strides in developing procedures that will aid in its early detection and hopefully save lives.
You know, we began this program by asking you about some seemingly unrelated things and the connections between them. Well, now you see what's connecting them and what may be relevant to your own experience, your own daily life. Operations research and management science is a lot more than a complex name for a scientific area of expertise. What it is a vital and dynamic kind of science that gives us the opportunity to make better decisions by understanding what's at the core of some complex situations. It also gives us the tools to perform more efficiently, a way to operate successfully in an often confusing world of people and machines and procedures. So, the next time you find yourself in one of these, you'll see there's a lot more to a line than meets the eye.